This one here is exactly what I talk about. Time doesn't exist, only opportunity. An inmate at 81 years old who has sexually tortured, raped, and just brutalized young women for years would get sentenced to only 6 years in prison and only have to do 3 of them, where he'd be released on parole, where he'd eventually be released around June of 2025. His home was vandalized, threats were going on, victims weren't even notified that lived next door to this piece of shit. Not even 3 months after his release, August 19th, 2025, the pedophile goes missing. Not a short time later, he would get dropped off on his front doorstep, butchered beyond recognition, to the point they still don't know how he died. Let's get into it. In 2022, the police would arrest a man in his 80s for over 10 counts of rape and pedophilia on women of all ages. It was in July of 2022, Sean Small, the pedophile rapist, then around 81, pleaded guilty to multiple sex offenses. These included offenses against vulnerable women, from girls as young as 6 to women as old as 30, for he assaulted them and did the worst of the worst to them. Now remember, you would think he would do a life sentence. I was pulling heists, dirtbag on dirtbag crime, robbing drug dealers, bar fights at the age of 22, and spent almost all of my 20s inside of the state penitentiary. He would be sentenced to 3 years in prison, followed by 3 years of community supervision. Let that sink in for a second. He tormented, ruined women and little children's lives for the rest of their lives, because that's trauma that you can never get past. And this man does barely 3 years. The rapist, pedophile piece of shit Small served approximately 3 years behind bars, later released a few weeks before his death under community license supervision. And of course, a victim of one of the children, the mother said neither nor she or her daughter was ever notified of his release. Only rumors circulated that he was coming back to the community. Now imagine being a mother or a father, and by law, they have to notify you, they have to put injunctions in, restraining orders. This man cannot be around, one, the victims or anybody in the community for that sake. Think about that. If you rob a bank, they won't let you live near that bank ever again. But this guy hurt women and children all up and down this community, and he was allowed to go right back home. And they didn't even tell them. That's exactly what happened with Cain Velasquez. They were supposed to alert him and put an injunction. Next thing he knows, he sees the man that did the worst of the worst to his son, and you get the point. And that's why these fucking predators are so brave, because they know the system helps them hurt these kids and all these women. And then when they get a hold of the children and women, they make them feel like they're the criminals. However, time doesn't exist, only opportunity. There's things that people can let go in life, and there's some things that will never be. It'll always be eternal. You hurt a child, you hurt a woman, a family member, maybe it'll be a week, a month, a decade, maybe I'll be 80. But when the opportunity presents itself, you can never let that go. Thinking about your little angel, your baby, your family member, your wife, your daughter, your son, whatever it may be. So this man gets out, pushed right back into his own community, and everyone's like, wait, did you hear what happened? Well, less than 3 months after his release, on Tuesday, August 19th, 2025, the pedophile rapist piece of shit Sean is last seen alive. They say he just vanished and nobody saw anything. It is speculated that the piece of shit Small may have been ambushed, snatched off his porch, dragged from his car, or seized from his home. For now, the exact details remain murky, but the community strongly feels something violent and intentional occurred. Now, was it violent and intentional, or were they protecting their community? This man committed those crimes or got caught for them in his 80s. Imagine how many women and children he did that to growing up. Imagine the pain a father or mother feels when someone that did the worst of the worst to your child or your wife, your sister, is out in 3 years, and they don't even have enough respect to call you because these predators are protected by the system. Just prior to his snatching, returning to his neighborhood, everybody felt the tension. Police confirmed there was an incident of criminal damage at his home a few weeks before his death. Reports say windows were broken, fires were set, and "Leave now, pedophile" was written on his driveway. And this is where you could tell this is a parent or a family member or someone that was truly hurt by the actions of this person. Not only was he snatched from his house Tuesday, 19th of August in 2025, his body was found Sunday on the 24th of August 2025 outside the front of his house. And during that 5-day gap, nobody saw him. No CCTV, no sightings, nothing. Forensics sealed his house and a second property nearby, which implies they believe he was either dragged from his porch or car or lured somewhere, killed somewhere else, and brought back. Oh, wow. Look at that. There's no such thing as coincidences. The same way you snatched those little girls, the same way you went after vulnerable women and children, you're 81 frail-year-old, and that's no disrespect to anybody that's an elder. I respect my elders. But if you hurt women and children, I don't. Postmortem is pending, but police describe the attack as brutal and sustained. Local sources and victim advocates are whispering that this looks like a deliberate retribution. A man convicted of sexual offenses is released, harassed, threatened, and possibly abducted, and ends up dumped dead on his front doorstep. That kind of staging, body returned to his home, is a classic sending a message behavior. It warns others in the area. It symbolically erases any return to normal for him. It tells his victims' families and the wider community we handled it, as well as letting his family suffer the loss and the pain that all these other families will have to have and the trauma they will have to have for the rest of their lives. The fact that anybody even took him in is surprising, but people support predators more than they do victims. The day they found the body, around 10:30 p.m., police described the scene as a brutal and sustained attack, so savage that the method isn't even being revealed yet. Neither stabbing, head trauma, nor beating is confirmed. Forensics continue to piece together how he died. The reason they can't say that they don't know if it was stab wounds or head trauma or a savage beating, because the damage is so severe that it could be all of them, none of them, they don't know. They say he was fucked up beyond recognition. They called it overkill, a level of violence suggesting rage and retribution. He walked free, and freedom snapped, shut in less than a month. He was released just around August, hunted from his own porch, snatched, dragged into darkness, only to be dumped at his own family's doorsteps. It wasn't just lethal, it was punishing, merciless, meting out a slow ballistic of retribution. As of now, a man unidentified in their 40s was arrested over the murder. This is reality. It doesn't matter. 81 years old, frail and weak, you went after children. You went after defenseless women, some of them in some vulnerable situations in their life. You end up being snatched off your front porch and displayed to your entire family. When you hurt women and children, it's not about vengeance. It's not about ego. It's about protecting the children, protecting the women. Because anybody that can do that and know they only had to do 3 years and got put right back in their home where they did all these crimes, what will be the next opportunity for them? I always say, when predators are put up against somebody that can fight back, they become the prey. They become the vulnerable ones. However, for him to go back to his community where he committed these crimes, act like nothing was gonna happen, just walk around, living his life, the audacity, the disrespect, the evil inside of him got off on that. That's a psychopath to the core. Knowing that he did all that, he felt untouchable. They vandalized his house. He still walked around like nothing was gonna happen. And yes, somebody was arrested. Who knows why? Probably a family member protecting the community, to where they took him, beat him so bad, and then dropped him back off in the front of his house for his whole family to see. As he had his wife, and I believe some other family member, maybe his brother, who all stood up for him when he was facing those 10 counts, saying he wasn't really a bad guy. He's not a good guy. He's not a bad guy. He's not a guy at all. And to not tell the families, to not put injunctions, these are the reasons I fight for what I fight for. This is the reason why I went to jail. Because I stood up, and I will continue to stand up for the corruption that's going on with that little boy. Stay out, stay free, leave our children alone. Us.